pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, how do we want to vote? Ballot, show of hands, or standing?
Depends on what we're voting on, yes.
Yeah, well, yes,
Dorothy Olson, 204646 Hidden Acres Lane. I suggest that we vote by ballot.
okay. Is there a second?
I'll second
All right, so this one we're gonna say aye or nay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Okay, motion carries. Okay, reading and approval of the minutes. This is gonna be lengthy. I didn't remember we had such a, do I need this, or can you all hear me okay?
No, please use a microphone.
Okay, this is lengthy. I didn't remember if we had it, that it was so long. Okay, is it on? Okay, all right, is that better or not?
Yes.
Okay, the annual meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. on April 17, 2018 by Chairman Carolyn Opitz. The Pledge of Allegiance was recited. Attendees, town residents in attendance was 74 with additional visitors. A sign-in sheet was completed. Comments from the audience. There was a public comment to return the town clerk and treasurer position to elected officials. Voting format. Dorothy Olson, last year did it too, made a motion to vote by paper ballot. Seconded by Judy Gadke. Motion carried. No discussion. Voice vote. Ayes carried. Prior meeting minutes. Paul Mansell requested 2 date corrections on the April 19, 2017 annual meeting. Motion made by Joe Berger to accept the minutes as read with the 2 date corrections. Second by Gary Franz. Motion carried. No further discussion. Voice vote. Ayes carried. Reports. Financial. The 2017 financial report was reviewed by Chairman Opitz. Dorothy Olson asked what the carry forward balance was from the prior year. Deb Durkis responded by referring Dorothy to the last page of the report, which showed $55,390. It was requested that the town use QuickBook reports showing line item detail for transparency purposes. Patty Ron, former clerk, noted that the report was Form CT that is filed annually with the Department of Revenue. There were further comments that the detailed report is preferred. Larry C. Hafer requested an explanation of the legal tax refunds. This was provided by attorney Lee Troni, who explained that illegal tax refunds are taxes paid by the taxpayers in excess of the tax bill, and therefore it is considered illegal. There were various questions related to equipment cost and no record of cost on the financial report. Fire Chief Bauer and Clerk Debbie Delphus responded by saying that both purchases would be charged to shop supplies. A motion was made by Judy Gadke to provide the detailed line item report at the annual meeting going forward. This was seconded by Dorothy Olson. Motion carried. Voice vote. Ayes carried. A motion was made by Bruce Wyman and seconded to accept the financial report as presented. Motion carried. Voice vote. Ayes carried. Highway, Dave Swenson commented that residents should not move snow into the road or across the road as this is not lawful. He further commented that this could damage the equipment and injure the personnel. He commended the people that have kept the roads cleaned over the weekend due to the big snowstorm. A resident mentioned that the roads were much better than Highway 97 and further commented that the road town has good guys plowing snow. Gary Franz commented about the gravel in the ditches which caused problems with the sod. A resident asked about the cameras on Highway 97 at Galvin. Chairman Opitz responded by saying that the state does not plan on doing anything further at this time. It is estimated that Highway 97 will be repaired in 2022, at which time the state will address it. Fire Chief Bauer did not have a report. Lori Bauer, EMS coordinator, stated that the fire station will have an open house on May 12th from 1 to 4. Chairman Opitz discussed the recent allegations and accusations. She explained that these are taken seriously. She further explained that Attorney Lee Tironi has been retained by the town board. Chairman Opitz introduced Attorney Lee Tironi. Mr. Tironi provided a brief introduction which included his tenure working at the Wisconsin Towns Association and now as an attorney in private practice, providing legal service for over a dozen municipalities. He has been in this line of work for 10 to 11 years. Mr. Tironi commented that the elected officials are volunteers and have limited training prior to taking office. Mr. Tironi stated that his client is the town of McMillan and not any specific individual. Mr. Tironi commented on the 2012 investigation and the subsequent complaints. The latest information that he had is that the district attorney's office is not pursuing this case any longer. The district attorney's office and the Department of Revenue investigated this case in 2012, and neither office found any evidence of wrongdoing. The most recent complaint in 2017 hit the statute of limitation because the time period has passed to file a claim pertaining to the 2012 case. Mr. Robert Steiner confirmed with Attorney Tironi that the investigation was cleared in 2012 and that there was no evidence found. Mr. Tironi commented on the 15 allegations that were just brought forward at the end of 2017-2018. Gary Franz stated that the case should not be discussed as it is still open. Mr. Tironi confirmed that it is okay to be discussed. Bruce Wyman asked for clarification from Mr. Tironi as to why someone can be removed from office by 3 attorneys and be reappointed to the same office in the future. Mr. Tironi commented that the board should not reappoint to the same position that someone was just removed from, but has the authority to reappoint at a future date. Bruce Weinman stated that there are requests for records that have gone unanswered. Mr. Tironi responded by saying that the requests for records are mostly accompanied by a reimbursement from the person requesting the records. Mr. Tironi further commented that there is an open request for records that were never completed because the records would cost $1,500 and the requester decided against pursuing the request. The request was not denied, it was just not followed up on. He further explained that a records request is not a combative process. There is not a statutory requirement that the request be written down, but that it is a good idea to track these requests by the clerk. Bruce Wyman asked Mr. Tironi if Mr. Tironi recommended that the town save all financial records, receipts, bills, checks, copies, etc. Mr. Tironi responded by saying yes for a period of 7 years. George Durkis asked the herd of people that posed the allegations stand up and explain to the audience what these allegations were. Mr. Weinman commented that you can't allege something that you have no information about. Kevin Steins posed a comment to Mr. Troni about the practices of the budget. His concern was that the budget line items have to be amended because a detailed budget was passed last year, and when the line item exceeds the budget has to be amended. This is a constant occurrence in the town. Mr. Steins was concerned that the budget was not amended in the prior year. Mr. Troni said that he agrees that there are some things that can be tightened up. Larry Seehafer, the name is spelled wrong here, asked Mr. Troni if the municipality has to follow the state statute to the letter of the law. Mr. Troni said that most towns have something that they might not be following like they should. The law changes faster than one can keep up with. Another resident commented that it was his understanding that there have been allegations and misappropriations of funds. Mr. Troni said that he did not personally investigate these allegations and can only confirm that the district attorney and Department of Revenue did not find anything. Dorothy Olson said that there were never any criminal allegations. They were concerned about why money orders were used to pay bills. Mrs. Opitz said that the open records request for the money orders did not specify the money order number, and when the information was provided to the requester commented that it was not sufficient but would not provide the money order number. Kevin Steins asked Mr. Troni if there are township ordinances that are in place and not being followed. How should the board proceed? Mr. Troni said that the board can amend any ordinance if it is problematic. However, as long as it is in place, it should be followed. Mrs. Opitz referenced a complaint that she had received about herself. The complaint was that she was a failure of leadership because she had not followed the town ordinance of appointing a highway committee. She explained that she reached out to many residents and was unsuccessful in finding someone to serve on the committee. Gary Franz stated that there are many complaints about the clerk's office hours. The state statute says that the clerk's office hours have to be posted. Mr. Troni did not make any comment. Regular business. Clerk and treasurer appointed versus elected. Mr. Troni informed the audience that the residents of the town cannot vote on changing the position from an appointed to an elected because the population was below 2,500. The only way to change it is for the board to make an ordinance to change it. Many residents spoke about this issue. Mr. William Arneson made a motion to recommend the board to change the clerk and treasurer to an elected position versus an appointed position, and there was a second by Bruce Weinman. It was decided to take a ballot vote on the recommendation. The vote was 46 yes and 28 no. This was an advisory vote to recommend. Mr. Steiner said that these positions require a skill set and there are costs involved to run. His concern was that the number of qualified people would be vastly reduced. Term limits of elected officials. Mr. Troni was asked a question regarding the term limits for elected officials. He responded by saying that there are no statutes regarding setting term limits for elected officials. Meeting dates. The Board of Review open book is set for May 31st, 2018 from 12 to 2 at the Town Hall. Board of Review is set for June 7th, 2018 from 7 to 9 at the Town Hall. A motion was made by Joe Berger and seconded by Dave Swenson to set next year's annual meeting to Tuesday, April 16th, 2019. Motion carried, ayes carried. Further comments. A recycled tire pickup is scheduled for the last Saturday of April at Pancratz Trucking. Dorothy Olson asked if the annual community picnic would occur this year as it had in the past. She further explained that the cost was minimum to include a park fee and the purchase of bicycles for the smaller kids. There was no decision made. A question was asked about what was going to happen to Mummy and Kay's Tavern and if the board was going to do anything about it. Mr. Tironi confirmed that the town board will have to pay for the abolishment. Mrs. Opitz confirmed that there had not been any further discussion. A motion was made by Joe Berger and seconded by Ron Durkis to adjourn the meeting. Respectfully submitted on November 12, 2018 by Tanya Holcomb, Deputy Clerk. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Yes.
Bill Kells, 202936 Winter Court, I approve reading of the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Deb seconds. Is there any further discussion or corrections? If none, we can take a vote. Do you want to do the paper ballot, or do you want to say ayes and nays? Aye?
What I for this?
Ayes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the 2018, review the 2018 annual financial report.
So most of you received a handout when you came in. We have it on the screen, but it's a little difficult to read. So I'm just going to go through the handout that you have and then answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so at the top, you'll see all of our asset balances at the beginning of 18, which consist of all of our checking accounts. So we have the general checking account, the tax collection account, the fire department, parks, the highway CD, and the fire department CD. So the total beginning assets were $1,473,472.44. For revenues, for taxes, we had $628,584 collected in 2018 for the town. Intergovernmental revenues, so these are revenues received from the state or the county. So state shared revenues, state fire insurance, computer aid from the state, general transportation aids, public safety grant, transportation for the disaster that we had, and then the PILT on the state conservation land for a total of $234,160.62. For licenses and permits, we received $5,238.30. And just know, if you have questions, I have all the details with me if you have questions, and if you want a copy of the detailed report, I can get that for you. I noticed that from the minutes, what Carolyn was reading. Public charges for, I'm sorry? Yes.
Nelson 91-18604 Birch Tree Road. Looking at the dog licenses, $35. Does that mean my dog and 2 others have been registered and paid for their licenses out of the whole township?
No, ma'am. That account is kind of an in and out account. So what is collected is then submitted to the county, minus a very small portion that's retained by the treasurer who collects the taxes. And so that account really should have a zero balance.
Oh,
Yep, and but it has a $35 balance, and so Donna and I are reconciling that, but right now it's unreconciled. So what we're thinking is that $35 might need to have been moved into the subsequent year, but we're still working on that.
How much do we collect in dog fees?
So last year I think it was about $884.
That's a lot better.
Give me this second. Okay, so we collected $980 last year. You're welcome. Okay. All right, and then the public charges for services, so that entails the liquor licenses, open records request, garbage, animal control, and then the park deposit money. So $154,455.39. And then intergovernmental charges for services. So this is revenue that the town has received on behalf of, us supporting other municipalities, like the Stratford area mostly is the district that we support. And then under miscellaneous revenues, we have interest income, refunds and recoveries, insurance recovery for the highway, for the fire department. We have fall festival revenue coming in, and then another revenue, fire fundraiser, and then other miscellaneous revenue for $51,949.20. And then finally, under revenues, we did have a fire equipment note for $144,750. So total revenues for 2018 was $1,228,192.51. Are there any questions about the revenues so far, other than the question that was raised? Okay, so under expenses, we'll start with general government. So in this first category here is the total board expenses. So this is for publication, printing, and postage, board expenses, association dues, mileage, the board salary, and the board FICA, as well as legal expenses. So the total was $64,788.09. For the newsletter and announcements, website, internet, the clerk expense, the clerk mileage, clerk salary, FICA, election expense and wages, the total was $50,693.35.
I have a question.
Yes.
Joey Stever, 207520 Great Ave. I'm questioning the clerk's salary of $31,000. Is that in line with what other townships around here are paying? I know what town of Cleveland pays theirs, and as you well know also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, and it's no dig on anybody's.
Sure.
To me, it looks like money that they're spending every other full-time job.
Sure. So the current salary for the clerk is $30,000 a year. This dollar amount that you're seeing encompassed we had 3 clerk changes during 2018, so that's why that's a little bit higher. And since you did bring up the town of Cleveland, I will tell you, my time spent here versus Cleveland is 2 or 3 times more here than Cleveland. That's just from a time perspective. From a compensation perspective, we would just need to do a salary survey.
What is the reason why it's 2 or 3 times more? Are we that much more complex? That could be a problem.
That's a challenging question, but we have a significant number of calls that come into the office, records requests. There's a lot of different demands on this office here. It's just a different township than Cleveland is. They're not really comparable, except in just the regular day-to-day statutory things that have to be done. Then obviously the reporting requirement and those kinds of things are comparable. But we don't have a fire department in Cleveland. There are some differences. So.
Do you know how many hours per year they work?
How many hours a year who works?
Per year, the clerk.
Here in this township?
Yes.
Right now, I'm on average, well, it depends on when there's an election. When there's an election, then the hours are significantly higher, but right now, on average, I'm working between 25 on upwards of 30 hours a week. So not only the time here, but in my home, and then I take phone calls as well. The prior clerk did document his hours, and all of those hours are on in the town minutes. If you wanted to look at those on the website, he documented every single hour he worked. So. Okay. All right, so now moving on to the treasurer's expenses. Treasurer expense, mileage, the treasurer's salary, treasurer FICA, board of review falls under this category, so any expense for board of review, and then the assessor contract. So the total under financial administration was $33,697.82. And then, the final category under general government is the buildings and grounds. So the town hall expense was, utilities, insurance, workers' compensation insurance, all total $14,389.57. So the total general government expenses were $163,568.83. And if we move on to public safety is gonna be the fire department and the EMS. Any questions about the general government category before I move on? Okay. All right, so under public safety, the first category is your fire protection expense. So this just includes wages, FICA, and then, insurance. For $29,929.69. And then under, the general expense, we have office supplies, member recognition, the gear, buildings and grounds, communication, a consultant expense, training and education, and then 2% dues. So the total expense was $22,594. Under the utilities, phone and internet, electric, gas, septic, and fire calls, for a total of $17,385.53. Then the next categories are just each piece of equipment that the fire department has and the expenses that were solely designated for those pieces of equipment. So you'll see the fuel is for all of the equipment, and then you have engine 10, pump 5, ladder 1, rescue 8, rescue snow, tanker 1, tanker 2, truck 4, ATV, the equipment apparatus maintenance, and then the SCBA's. And so the fire department operations total was $25,298.55. The next category is the, we have the state grant, payable to the DNR, and then the fall festival expense. So that total was $18,145.84. And then the final category under public safety is the EMS area. So we have wages, FICA, the ambulance contract, equipment and supplies, and then training expense, for a total of $59,438.17. So the total public safety expenses for last year are $172,698.72. Any questions on the public safety area?
Yeah, I got one. Just curious, how many trucks does the fire department have here? How many vehicles?
Rod here? 5?
We have 7 right
So, Rod said we have 7 trucks.
Is that more than what Marshfield has?
now. No.
How many does Marshfield have? I'm curious.
What was the question? I
He's,
think they have, actually it may be, I mean, if you take the ambulances out, and then if you take our rescue 8 out, that'd be
Marshfield had
6,
8?
and there would be 7.
You got 7?
No, that's what I said.
I can't hear.
go
If
ahead,
you take
Rod.
rescue 8 out of the equation, because that's an EMS vehicle, so you'd be taking, and also taking the ambulances off of what the city of Marshfield has, because they have 4 ambulances, they have 4 engines, a squad or a rescue, and a ladder truck.
So that's 6?
Yes.
6 for the city of Marshfield, and then 6 for town of McMillan if we take off
Correct.
that one, so they're equivalent then. Okay, so Dave, the question was how many, trucks do we have as compared to the town of McMillan? I'm sorry, city of Marshfield.
So
Okay,
that 172 is for this building and for the protection of us as a township.
yes, that's correct.
And then that's
It
the-
includes, well, yes, so when you say protection of the township, it includes the ambulance contract that we pay to the city of Marshfield. So that is, $53,575. So of that, 172,
So 119 and change.
sure. Yep, that includes, firefighter wages, it includes the maintenance of the equipment and fuel and, just the protection for the residents. Any other questions?
Well, I just, I'm just trying to figure out our tax dollars and how they're
Sure.
spent, and no disrespect to anybody in this building, 'cause it's great and all, but looking at other townships again, that are contracted by Stratford or Spencer, they're saving a lot of tax money. I'm just throwing that out there for people to.
Sure. Do you have a specific question that
Well,
somebody can address for you?
I mean, does anybody know how many, pieces of machinery does Stratford have?
That was what?
So his question was, how many pieces of machinery does Stratford have? I think Rod's.
I'm gonna have to call Tim if you seriously want that answer.
Okay.
Well, do you know if it's more or less or equal?
I'm gonna say it's roughly about the same.
And they said
They've
how
got,
many-
I believe, 3 or 4, stations. So
Right,
that
they're
other
contracted
than-
by other,
What?
they're contracted by other townships also.
Correct.
And are we contracted with any other townships?
No, you're not. We're a single township on our own.
Any other questions? Okay.
Maybe you might mention what, like Cleveland that has absolutely no vehicles, nothing, what their bill is per year.
So Carolyn asked me just to mention what Cleveland's bill is per year. So we contract with Stratford, and it's around, I think it's just below, right around 70. I don't have the exact number with me tonight. So $70,000 for fire protection services.
I believe it was 83, and that's with the ambulance.
So
and all that
the 83 included a large fire, the Kraus fire last year. So yeah.
stuff.
That was about 11. All right, so under Public Works, the machine, so this includes, the first category is highway operations, shop operations, the grader. We didn't have anything for cruise air. So the 3 different trucks, the tractor, the grass cutter, and the buildings and grounds was $20,927.94. And then under the category of highway, street maintenance, so this includes all the wages for the workers, the FICA, overtime, retirement for 1 employee, fuel, insurance, all the utilities, traffic control, sand and salt, dust control, granite, culverts, and then highway maintenance and street lights, so $149,752.65. And then the next category is the highway street construction, so any special projects that were done. So 164,465.23. And then the last section under Public Works is the sanitation area. So garbage collection was $163,625.19, and the recycling was $26,951.34. So the total Public Works for 2018 was $525,722.35.
I got a question about the recycling garbage.
Okay,
Now, is that a yearly contract, or is it a 5-year, 10-year?
Yeah,
so it's a 10-year
Is
contract.
that contract up, or will be up, or was it just re-signed?
I think we have maybe 2 or 3 years left on it.
Okay, because I would highly recommend that the next time we redo this contract, right now, I looked at 5 different townships around us that have garbage pickup. We are paying 28% more than any of these other municipalities. And every one of them has recycling either every week or every other week. In today's world, there's a lot of stuff that can be recycled. And we end up burning most of it in this township because we got once a month pickup. So I would highly recommend, I mean, we're paying 28% more for a lesser product. That would be something I would be highly concerned about.
Under 28%, though, I mean, one thing that we have to keep in mind with this township, there's a lot of townships, and I don't know which one you picked out of, but you have to look at how many residents that they have. So that's how many stops, because I believe this is our contract not based on stops.
Our
It's one part of the
contract was
equation.
based on the number of pickups. I know that our number is the highest, and there are 765 for the year of 2019 that will have garbage and recycling picked up.
Well, I'm gonna guess that Town of Mosley is probably a little bigger than us, or really full size. They paid $145 for their garbage and recycling, and they got garbage weekly and bi-monthly recycling. If the money is the money, it is what it is, I would be working on negotiating that down. But the once a month recycling is kind of the sticker to this all of why it's a lesser product that they're getting.
It is also, you know, we're in a kind of a consortium. There are 6 townships together that created this contract.
Do you know who we're all with?
Yes. Cameron, Rock, come on Dave, help me.
Cameron, Rock, Richfield, Lincoln, Town Marshfield, and McMillan.
And McMillan. So they all went together to develop this contract.
Northwest Recycling also writes a grant, so they get some money into their budget from the state, so we get some money from the state. We've talked about a couple times the recycling and we haven't negotiated that with them. I can see your point where, you know, twice a month would be okay, but it's gonna cost us more money. That's the bottom line.
But what I don't understand is why it costs more money when you got the village of Stratford is paying $108 a year, and they get weekly recycling and weekly garbage. Also.
Who do they have? Do you know?
They have advance,
They do?
yes.
Well, that could certainly be, but we're in a contract, so I don't know how, yes.
Yes, and I would be against going to twice a month. We are 2 people, we're lucky if we put recyclables out maybe once a month, once every 2 months. It would be nice if we went back to having, pay your own bills, because before then, when we went off for a month or a half, I could negotiate and say, we're taking off, we were not charged for trash pickup during that time. We are now paying for everybody else's trash to be picked up. I'm willing to do that.
That's not a bad option, but I mean, I would consider that more the exception of the rule than the rule. Most of the people here have recyclables. I've got 2 kids at home. I've got milk cartons. I've got all that stuff. I'm burning it.
Fine, I'm willing to pay my fare for your trash to be picked up.
I don't even put my trash out every week because I don't, but what I'm getting at is, if we're gonna be progressive and we're gonna be all about saving recyclables, then we can't go off of what one person, I don't have it. You gotta look at the whole and say, this is what's better for us, better for our planet, better for all that stuff.
And right now, I am.
And
By
that's-
paying
and
my
that's
fair
great.
share,
And that's
Okay.
great.
as everybody else.
What
I'm just
we need to
making a
move
point.
on here, and now, you do realize that if you get a red card from the office, that you take that red card and you can go down to advanced disposal on your own with extras that if you wanna get rid of it,
Where do you get the red card from?
from the clerk's office. Yeah,
I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to go to the clerk's office, nor do I have time to go to bank. I mean, I would rather have every other week trash and every other week recycling, and that would actually save money. I just calculated it, and it's, 163,625 divided by 52 weeks is 3,146 per week, or per pickup, and 26,951 divided by 13 weeks, which is what 52 divided by 4 is 2073. So it's $1,000 less to pick up recycling based on these 2 charges. So we would save $1,000 per pickup.
well, the thing is we have a contract.
I
And we
know.
have to wait till,
I'm
and
making a suggestion for
renegotiate
the
it
next-
until the end of that
The next
contract.
contract.
But certainly, you know, you can put your,
Because I
request it.
contacted them and I said, you know, I don't wanna pay extra, so I'm happy to throw my recycling in the trash, but that's not, I'd rather recycle it because
Sure.
that's what's
Well,
the appropriate thing.
I think there's a lot of people like that.
Miss Gary.
Gary Grant, 116-451 Birch Street Road. when I was out campaigning, that was an issue. Quite, brought up quite a few times about the recycling. People are throwing it in the garbage because the bins are full. I know at my house, it's my wife and I, and we recycle everything we can recycle. And our bin isn't full. Our garbage, a lot of times I don't even have to put it out in the winter, you know, because I don't have that much garbage. But like my neighbors with a bunch of kids and stuff, I mean, they're recycling, their garbage is overflowing all the time. And I'm sure he throws a lot of his recyclables away.
It was also in the news a while back that because a lot of people are throwing their recyclables in their trash and they're having to go through it, that the cost for trash pickup is going to go up.
We have more recycling. That's more bigger case.
We can't sell stuff in China.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Go ahead, Sam.
Sam Steiner, 205-500 Foxfire. And we have to keep in mind that because of the international situation of tariffs in China, we're gonna be having skyrocketing costs of recycling. So until there is a change in policy regarding China and tariffs, we really are going to be paying a heck of a lot more for recycling.
Well,
So
yeah,
understanding
China
that
is
plus.
not
They're not
accepting
accepting
any recycling anymore. That's common. Yeah.
And part of that reason they're not taking it is because we get too much dirty stuff in the recyclables. I mean, people are throwing their cans and their bottles and stuff in there without cleaning them, and it's not meant for that. And that's why they're having a problem. They want clean recyclables. I mean, people throw their pizza, cardboards and stuff in there. No, that's gotta go in the garbage because that's dirty. It's supposed to be only clean cardboard and clean stuff. You don't throw your dirty napkins and stuff in your recyclables. And that's part of the problem why they're not selling this recyclable stuff, because they're not taking it because it's so adulterated.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm moving on to Health and Human Services. So this is our animal control. So our constable's wages and FICA, insurance, mileage, animal control charges, and then our animal control contract. $2,056.23. Under culture, recreation, and education, we have the library contract, the parks expense, parks utilities, parks, the deposits that were refunded. And then, so the total is $95,653.14. Under conservation development, we have the wages and FICA and expense for the planning commission, $972.19. And then the capital outlay, $222,300 for the fire protection. And then our debt service, we did pay off a note this year. So the principal and interest was $60,212.79. So the total expenses were $1,243,184.25. Are there any other questions about expenses that I might be able to help answer? Okay. All right, so we're going to move to the last page. So the first section here on the last page is just a summary of where your tax dollars go. So you can see how much goes to the town of McMillan, to the county, to each of the school districts and the technical colleges. So our total tax roll, $2,908,169.33. And then finally, we'll end with our cash balances, and there is a correction in this category as compared to your newsletter that was sent. In the newsletter, there was an extra CD that I had put on there that actually wasn't set up until January, so I did remove that. So the balances on hand at the end of the year was $1,063,098.14. Any other questions about the financials? Yes.
Can you, I'm not, so it says that the total beginning assets were 1.473 million, and the ending assets were 1.063 million.
Mm-hmm.
Expenses exceeded revenues by like $40,000,
Mm-hmm.
no, 20,000, but how come there's such a difference in the assets?
the beginning cash and the ending cash.
Yeah.
So, government accounting's done a little bit differently, but what you don't see in in the revenue is some of the cash that came in from the CDs. So like when we cashed out like a public works CD or, fire department CD, I'm not showing that cash coming in. So that's probably and I can reconcile that for you, I just can't do it right here when I'm standing in front of you. Okay, but, you do recognize that cash coming in for whenever I think we closed out several of the CDs this year, right, Donna? Yes.
Under 2020. I see we got that bridge CD. How much a year do we put in to keep it going? So we do have enough money in the future, because we are getting to the point where there's gonna be somebody down the bottom.
Sure, so you're looking at the blue newsletter,
Yes.
and that bridge CD was not set up until January, so that was the error that I was mentioning. But we do have on the white handout, so you see the CD for the public works, it's 59,000. So I think that is set aside for the bridge, and then we put another $59,000 in there in January. So roughly 120,000 is designated for that bridge project right now.
Is it gonna public?
No, our portion is gonna be right around 200,000. I mean, that was the initial estimate. It may change, because I think the federal government has notified the county that they may not be reimbursing us as much as they thought we were gonna be reimbursed. So, for the federal portion of it. So, and the bridge, this year, we will be paying for the engineering, which is just, it's in the 26,000 or something like that. And that's what we will pay this year, have to pay. And then, after that, then the bridge will be possibly sometime within the next 2 years, that we're gonna have to have that at least 200,000. Yes.
Ms. Dorothy?
Dorothy Olson, 204646. Also, if you have been listening to the news, the state government is also talking about increasing the federal or the state aid that will go to the county for bridges. That's also in the works. So
Hopefully it'll make up the difference so that we won't have to be
that's been in the works.
Any other questions about the financial report? Okay, and please know that I can answer questions for you outside of meetings. So if you want to give me a call, send me an email. All of our records are open records. So any information that you have questions about, you don't have to wait until you come to a meeting to ask me. Okay? Yes.
I got one here.
Okay.
On the front sheet, it says highlights of expenses. Number 11.
Okay. What is that item?
Legal fees or attorney fees that were dismissed by the attorney. How come that issue was dead 3 to 10 years? How come it's got a life insurance?
Question I can't answer for you.
Because there have been other cases than the early one. There have been 3 investigations. And so, after the third one, when they were all dismissed, the county sheriff and detectives told us that we needed to have the sheriff or the attorney at our meetings because the public needed to be educated on municipal law. And that he should be attending our meetings to try and prevent us from having future cases. that was the purpose, and that's why we did it. Dorothy?
On that note, do you have a breakdown of how many of his hours or money he spent on, you know, coming to our town meetings, and how much he actually spent on that? On the three criminal, I guess I don't think I'm criminal, but on the three criminal, you know, so it's a breakdown, so we know the DA suggested it, we know the sheriff suggested it, and you took the go and have the attorney there. But to think that this is all being used for three criminal cases, no, it's not. This was for education for the board and for the public.
It was mainly for the public, because the board, now, I know there was, a note made at some place, I read it, that the board doesn't know how to run meetings. Well, that is not what the purpose of the attorney was there for. He was there to educate, and that was it. And mainly, he said, we need to get they need, the district attorney, the Department of Justice, and the detectives all said, this cannot continue to go on. So we need to educate the public. And so that's why we did this for a while. I think that, so then I spoke to the sheriff, he says, is it working? And I said, I'm not sure whether it is or not, I don't know. I have no way to gauge it.
I go to the meetings, you know I'm sitting there, and I had yet to ever have the attorneys stand up and say, this is the way a meeting, this is the way to instruct the public on this is how a meeting is to be run. I went to the meetings, I never heard anything said.
Well, it's in writing.
I suggest you look at the videos, because it's absolutely all over the videos. I've been actually reviewing some of them, and indeed, exactly what you described happened on numerous occasions during the town meetings. It was so good that they were videotaped, because we can look back at them. So if you need the proof, you can look at the videos, yeah, so it's all there.
And you can tell, he writes it out very clearly on his invoices.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Dorothy, we have all of his invoices here where he has to account for his time, so we do have that.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry, George, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, my questions, I got two. Basically, can you break down, out of that 29,000, is that totally for those three investigations?
No.
No.
That's why Dorothy is,
Okay,
that's why.
right. Can you tell us what that amount was? For?
We can pull it up and look at
And I
it.
would like to thank those people for causing the wasting of the money for those investigations. And I have a question, since the attorney is not here, that I need someone from the board here or to contact the attorney to see if there's any action that the board can take or a group of citizens from the township to take against those people to get them to reimburse the money to the township for the unwasted investigations.
Probably not, but anyway, George?
Yeah, at one meeting I asked you about the $30,000 that it was gonna cost for that attorney, and you had said the DA and the sheriff or whatever recommended. They didn't, according to what you said at that meeting, you didn't say, they said, yes, you gotta have that. And I tell you what, Carolyn, I just think that was a total waste of money, I really do.
Well, I
Because
think maybe it was, because
Yeah,
I'm not
and
sure,
with
I'm
Bob's
not sure
meetings-
that people paid attention.
Pardon me?
I'm not sure that people paid attention to some of what he was saying, you know? I mean, because then we have all these things that come back out, and it's the same things over and over again, that, you know, that these are closed, we're done with it, move on. We need to move forward. That's what needs
Just
to
like I told you
happen.
at that meeting, when I asked you about that, I said, if you do everything legal and the way it's supposed to be done, you shouldn't have to have F.B. Bailey sitting there
Yeah.
at $200 an hour.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I see his opinion on the community picnic. I have an opinion also, that man should be a farmer because he knows how to milk. Let me tell you, he milks it out. And I think that's wrong. That 30 grand will look a hell of a lot better in a Stockbridge project. And that's my opinion on
Well,
that.
I think the county and the Department of Justice and what it's cost them for the for the investigations is why they're saying it. Because it cost, we didn't pay for those, the county, well, we did pay it, because we pay our taxes to the county. So we are paying for it. But they said, you've gotta put a stop to all of this, and the only way to do it
I got one more
is
question for you now.
education.
You said something about contacted with the F.D. Bailey to be the attorney. Was that board approval? Does that have to be board approved?
Sure,
Was it board approved?
sure.
Are you sure?
Yes, we have to.
I didn't see those minutes.
I really
I
can't.
don't know where they are.
You can see them
We'll
on
have to
Mill
look
News.
for 'em.
Mill News is
That'll
a
be up
wonderful
to you.
resource.
I can't.
They're all the data there, yeah. Just
Yes.
like millnews.com, it's all there.
Yes,
I want to clarify, I had a meeting with the sheriff parks and Captain Lee quite well back, and I got a tape from them. And their reason for having the word wanting to be at these board meetings is specifically for questionable practices by the board. And anybody wants to see that tape, I'll be more than happy to give you that tape. That's what it's talked about at that meeting.
well, he never ever said a word to
I
me
got
about
tape.
that, not a word. So, anyway, whatever. We have before us the, financial report. Do we have a motion to approve this financial report?
Motion to approve the financial report.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve the financial report. Is there discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Do you wanna do a paper ballot? Ayes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nays. Okay, motion carried. Okay. I think that we have, we can call on, our supervisors and the fire department if they have anything that they would like to report on. Dave, can we start with you?
I guess I've been approached a couple times, over the last winter season.
You wanna stand up, Dave, please? Thank
I've
you.
been approached a couple times, what we can do, and it's printed in the newsletter. And I'm gonna read it verbatim, what was printed in the newsletter in January and February about the two issues about pushing snow across the road. Number one, is there anything the town can do about people that plow snow from their driveway out into the roadway right away? A, section 346.94 of the state statute states that no person may place or cause to be placed upon any highway substance that is or may be injurious to any vehicle. A pile of icy snow, packed snow certainly fits that description. Section 346.95, parent 3 states that the penalty is $50 for each offense. The town can request the county sheriff's department to cite people for violation of the state law. Some towns send a warning letter or a notice to the property owners before referring the person to the sheriff's department. If the sheriff's department will not come out to help you out, another option would be for the town to adopt a local ordinance to address the issue of plowing snow into the right-of-way, and then the town could issue and prosecute its own citations for violations. Finally, be aware that Wisconsin State Statute 86.022 makes it a misdemeanor punishable by fine to place any obstruction in a road ditch. This means that property owners should not be filling town road ditches with compacted snow that will not allow drainage. Once again, the town may contact the law enforcement with jurisdiction in your area to report a violation and see if there is an issue, see if they will issue a citation for causing such an obstruction. Now, I know we've had a couple of issues, and we put it in the newsletter. My suggestion to the board would be to adopt an ordinance it's come to my attention that by pushing stuff across the road, it also damages the road surface, whether it's probably a chip seal. So I guess that's something we can put on the board for discussion. The other thing I'd like to call your attention to is that we have weight limits. Basically, our weight limits on our town roads mirror what the Marathon County does. And I think they were posted here, how long ago? Somebody remind me. 2 weeks, maybe? 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
So we're in for the long haul here till about 5 or 6 weeks, probably after the 1st of May sometime when they're gonna pull them off. Again, it's been one heck of a winter. January was a lot of rain, not much snow. We got all the snow in February, along with the polar vortex and the blizzard and the wind and so on and so forth. Kind of went away. We got dumped on again after the frost started coming out. The guys do as good a job as they can. Blacktop roads are pretty decent. We try to stay off the chip seals when you have a heavy snow, wet snow like we've had. When you're pushing it, the road surface was warm, and you got 10, 11, 12 inches of snow, and it melts underneath, and it's heavier than heck. They try to stay off the chip seals and the gravel roads. So rather than push all the gravel in the ditch and cut into the chip seal, they do the best job they can with what they got. So I'm looking for suggestions. The other thing is, and I'm going to say it again to this group, we cut $166,000 out of the budget. This board's going to have to figure out what the heck they're going to do. You got to protect the infrastructure we got. I pay county taxes. A lot of you people do not live on a town road. You live on a county road. Now, I pay my fair share of taxes. My family's been here 119 years. That being said, we're all in this boat together. And I hear a lot of animosity and innuendos and campaign crap that goes on, and I wasn't very happy to hear about it. They returned me back to the board. I'll do what this board wants me to do, but the rest of the board members better be on board, and I'm looking for a better outcome. I said at the forum, I'm here for one reason. You're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. I want to leave it better than when I found it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
About the plowing of the snow. Can you take your own snow though, like when the plows go through and they build it up at the end of your driveway and push it in the ditch on your own side of the driveway there? You know, just take it right in, push it into the ditch that way.
My only suggestion, we had some people doing that.
Because I do that.
Pardon me?
Because I do that, because I have nowhere to go with it.
I understand.
You know, I try to take my loader and get it as far back so that when they wing it, they're not hitting it, but when you get all the snow we got in February.
Yep. One suggestion I would have is don't put it on the ends of the culvert, because then somehow you gotta get it either someplace else besides the end of the culverts. We had a number of instances where contractors just pushed it on the ends of the culvert, and that's where the problem once the rapid melt came down. See? Well, then it was running along the shoulders of the road, washing out the shoulders.
And maybe that's something you guys can put in when tax time comes around or whatever, because for these people that do sub out somebody to do the plowing, to say, hey, yo, Mr. So-and-so.
Yep.
read this. I
Well-
don't wanna pay the bill that they're gonna send me for
Yeah.
you not following the rules.
I had an incident where I had a contractor, on a road, and he was pushing it across the road. I stopped him. I said, "Do you know it's against the law to do that?" "Nope, first time I've heard it. I'll check with my boss." So he checked with his boss, and indeed, that is the law.
It's been a law for a long time.
It's been a law for a long time, exactly. Yep.
How does this weight limits, do our septic haulers exempt from that?
Yeah, I guess,
Yeah,
well,
you know,
they have to be.
Well,
You want
they
your,
could, but I
you
mean,
want, you want your, holding tanks pumped. Milk haulers probably are exempt for the dairy farmers.
Garbage also.
Garbage and recycling, yep. The other thing that you might help, whether you're on a chip seal or a blacktop, would be, and I know it depends on the weather, if you could push the cart out toward the edge of the road a little farther. Otherwise, I know they got that arm that reaches out. It doesn't take long, but sometimes they'll naturally, if it's too far in the driveway, they'll come off the edge and it cuts in. And a lot of times that's by your mailbox. So then Pat fields the questions where, well, my mailbox is, come and put some stuff in there. Well, part of that is the mailman, part of it's the garbage pickup. It's a number of issues, so. Here.
Our township guys are guilty of leaving the snow on the
Pardon me?
road. Our township guys are guilty of leaving the snow. They came around the corner on Scat, put it on to 97, great big pile, and left it sit. I also saw it out on, off of McMillan on T. Now, I mean, if they're gonna come around the corner, I mean, they could go up the road a little and slowly lift it, so it, I mean, these were huge piles.
I understand it. Part of it was heavy.
I-
Part of it is the shoulder soft, and I don't want a truck in the ditch, so I understand. It's slowly leaving. Today was a good day. I saw some of it sitting on the edge of the road too. But
And especially with that heavy stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I plow, I know it turns to a concrete wall.
And Dave, I just wanna say, I got some complaints from neighbors.
Pardon me?
I got complaints from other neighbors, like on Drake and C there. When they plowed through on Highway C, that snow piled up right at the end of Drake. It never got moved out, so you had to drive through it. And people that had cars and stuff would, I'm like, what do you want me to go do? You want me to take my tractor down the road and scrape it up? But I mean, I know it was a bad situation of snow.
The other thing you have to
But
realize.
that's not also safe though either, to leave that stuff sit there, and then that gets, frozen at night and gets
Yeah,
hard,
yeah.
and somebody with a car drives through, who's paying for those,
I think you gotta take into consideration, there's 55 miles road. You go down one way, you turn around, and there's another 55 the other way.
like I said, it's not a good situation, it's just.
And I think our guys do a pretty good job.
They do.
I don't think anybody had a plugged road more than 24 hours after the big snow blow. And I think that's credit to them.
You talking on this last one or back in February?
In February, the February one.
Well, yeah,
It was the last one, County Truckee was a mess. It was a mess.
That's what I'm saying,
Anybody
but
that
that's
lived
what
in
we
the
got
county
last
truck,
week, that's just not kind of the road that was.
You paid your taxes, you lived in a county road, and I paid my taxes, and I don't live on a county road, and they were worse than our own.
I live on Drake, so it's not a
Yeah.
county road.
One of the things too, I think, is Dave, was sometimes when the county comes through, because that was a real weird snow.
Right.
I mean, the county was pushing, and then all of a sudden they didn't do anything, then all of a sudden they came back. Pat doesn't always know when the county comes back and does stuff, and they may swing out, push stuff on the township roads, because they don't care about the township roads. They do whatever they're doing when they're doing it. They drive right across. Pat could have gone through, or Gene could have gone through, plowed the road out, had the intersection
That's what
perfect,
happened. They had-
and then they come through. So sometimes as
You just
residents,
call?
you just gotta let the road supervisor know, hey, the county came through and they dumped a bunch here, can you guys take care of it?
Because it wouldn't be legal if I took my tractor when clean it out for you. I mean, I'm here to help everybody out too. Why spend somebody else's time when you're doing something else? I could do it, I don't wanna be.
Remember,
And
we're
the real
all,
thing is as you see, is on 97 there, I mean, I would really not take your own tractor out there, because the problem is if somebody hits you, I mean, it's come so close with the trucks this winter, it's crazy.
Well, yeah.
With people trying to hit us, and we've got the DOT lights and everything, and if you have one little beacon and they say, well, you should add 2 beacons, and now your insurance and everything, I mean, I'd just let Pat know, he's here day in, day out, so, he'll come out and take care of it for you, or Gene will, whoever's running with the truck, so.
I could share this incident, happened yesterday. I got a call from Pat. He says, what should I do? He was over on Man Road, filling potholes. Lights on the truck, facing west on Man Road, west of St. Joe's that goes south. He was about ready to step out of the truck, had his foot out the door. He checked his mirrors before he stopped, wanted to know where the car went. Before he knew it, he checked his mirror. Before he knew it, there was a red Chevy Impala hit back of the town truck, the little truck, scratched the whole side of the right Impala, peeled off some glass, some plastic in the right-hand mirror, and left the scene. That came dang close to hitting our guy. And I don't want to see anybody hurt, because I've been on plenty of accidents on 97 in Galvin and other places in the township with the fire department. You don't want to, I don't want to be picking up people and putting them on a backboard that if they don't have to be. So safety, look out for the guys, you know, here we go. One guy that's doing the work at this point in time, one full-time guy. I'm sure he's had at least 8 ton of patch after these snow events that he's put in potholes, and it gets wet and sloppy, and with the traffic that's on Man Road especially, that's a bad road. How are we gonna address it? I don't know, that's up to you. So any other questions or comments? Larry.
I have a question for you, Dave. Now, you mentioned the ordinances for that snow removal. I was on that committee, and I think there is one in there for refuge in the ditches, and I think that also coincides with snow removal.
It coincides with what?
Snow removal across the roads.
Okay.
I think there is an ordinance on the books pertaining to that already.
Okay.
And the second question is, did the board address the problem with the gravel trucks on Galvin? Empty and loaded.
It was the motion, you're talking about the last
Correct.
open hearing we had. It was the motion of the board that for the next 5 years and the renewal of the pit down there, that they'd come in from C empty and they'd leave to C full. They shouldn't be on this road. That's gonna have to be up to the board, how they're gonna post this out here to keep those trucks off of it. People on both sides of the issue, what would we have, 2.5 hour meeting? 3 hour meeting?
Yeah, something similar to that. You could see the damage already on this road, how it's washed out already from the empty trucks, more so than the heavy ones, the older ones.
Now, the Board of Adjustment hearing is the 25th of this month in the courthouse at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think we're second on the agenda, correct?
Right.
I'm going up. It's a blessing and a curse. It started in 2000, it's 2019.
I had 2 questions, I'm sorry, I got a third one. In the last 6 months, I've been averaging at least 2 semis a month going down Galvin past my house.
Yep. went to Stratford the other morning and I had I don't know if it's S-O-F-U, a SoFu food. Never saw the thing in my entire life before. Followed me across a 15-ton bridge, right up and pulled in behind me up at Mullins, you know.
I mean, the sign.
You can sign them, but nobody's looking. You can sign it out here and nobody's looking. We're at the mercy of the county sheriff's department. By the way, when I called in 911. Pat was very shook up. He said, will you call? And I said, he wanted to know if it should be reported. And I said, you definitely, it should be reported. You want me to call it in? It took 45 minutes to an hour for a squad to get out there.
You're right, we are at the mercy of the sheriff's department.
It took 45 minutes. And then, during the conversation I had with the 911 operator was, I have an accident, my highway operator's been rear-ended. He's not hurt, but I want a squad out there. Where are you? I said, it's Man Road, west of County Trunk E. She says, E as in Edward. I says, yes, Town of McMillan, E as in Edward. Give me an address. And I says, he's on the road putting patch on the road. I can't give you an address. Well, you know, she said, this is what I got here. And I said, I understand, I'm on the fire department too. And if you don't have an address, their computer, despite all the money we spent by the county, isn't even taking that. Well, finally, she said, I'll see how soon I can get an officer out there. But it took 45 minutes to an hour because I talked to Pat today.
Okay, doesn't Marshfield cover Man Road too?
They've been out there.
I've seen them quite frequently come through, they go.
They've been out there and
They
that's,
could have been dispatched also.
well, that's not my call, Dorothy.
Right, but.
That the county should have done it. They thought it was-
Right, but they do have.
Once in a while, they do show up,
Yeah.
but that's all on their own.
If it's 911 calls, they show up.
Once in a while. We've had them out on 97 Galvin because they're the first one. So, I've seen it. Any other questions?
I'm wondering, you said with that one plowing the snow across the road, has the township ever sent a letter out to those people? who have done it
Individually?
Individually?
No, not that
I
I know.
would like to recommend that a letter be sent out to those people who do plow the snow across the road. And if they continue to do that, then to be given a fine. For doing it. Because the road in front of their driveway going down is a mess, it's chewed up. Now, I know some of the plow has done some of it, but that's after they have chewed the road up and doing plowing across the road.
Okay, Ronnie?
I thought that pit when it was open,
About what?
that pit up here, when it was open here back, 20 years ago?
Yep.
Wasn't it supposed to be a 10-year, and then it went to a 5-year, then it went to a 10-year, and it went to a 15?
That all's been discussed at the meeting on Monday night, and it was a recommendation by the board that it'd be 5 years, and all traffic come in off of C fully loaded, leave fully loaded and come in that way. Now, how are we gonna police that? I don't know.
You're gonna have to put squad lights on your car.
No. No.
Are
Any other
there any
questions?
other supervisors? Any more questions for Dave? Any other supervisors that have anything to share? Okay,
Well, I just wanna thank everyone who voted for me, so I'm a supervisor again.
very good. Okay, we'll move on then to, Rodney, is there anything that you wanted to report?
I really don't have anything for tonight. Just kind of remind everybody that we do require burning permits. So if you're basically anything larger than your campfire, your 36-inch ring, you need a permit for that. And I know that I heard a little bit today, but I'm gonna turn a blind eye to it. I believe in our ordinances, it does not allow for burn barrels. So keep it hidden and don't let me see them, because if I see them, I'll have to basically walk over and show you the ordinance, so. And that's basically all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. And then let's move on to comments from the public. Are there any further comments? Yes.
I just had one other announcement. The old tire pickup is the 27th of April, from 8 to 4, and it's gonna be in the, buyer's guide, what you can take and how many and what it's gonna cost.
Still gonna be at Pancrats?
Hope City?
Pancats, trucking, yes. Yep.
And the red cards, if you don't have your red cards, get one from the clerk.
Yep.
Because you can have, what is it, 8 tires?
I believe it's 8 tires,
8
but I
tires,
checked
regular
the,
tires, and free to get rid of them.
yeah. And it goes by sizes. Tractor tires are quite a bit more.
20 on down
Yep.
is 8 for free, anything over that is 10, go to $10 now?
I don't know if you changed it.
Yeah, I know, truck and tractor tires, all went up.
Okay, can we move on? Yeah, are there any other comments from the audience? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate all the new board members for a well-run campaign. I happen to be a campaigner out there, so. No, not really. I can tell you some of the comments that I found out, and you guys will be happy about, so I'm not gonna go there tonight.
Okay, good. Okay. Yes.
Are any of our ordinances being changed? Because, you know, we discussed that at the.
Well, he told us, I discovered that I had not taken the workbook that we had, worked with the last time when we worked on them. And so I took those over to him, and he said this will probably take up to a year before he gets through them totally. I know it took us, Russ, what was it? Almost 2 years, I think, the last time we did it, to go through all of the ordinances, bring the ones, but because he said there's so many things in that book that are just, it makes it a huge book and very difficult to get to, and so.
And we should be doing that, not a lawyer.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of things like he just said about
Well,
that
that's
burn
why
barrel. I mean, that's
there's
totally
one-
ridiculous, we should throw that out.
Gary,
In our reality
that's the
though,
way it works. He goes through it, and changes the laws. Russ and I did all the rest of it. We gathered all of that information. We got it from the plan commission. We got it from the fire department. That is us doing it. It's not just him. He's the one that does the laws. All the laws that have changed, and those will be updated. But the rest of it, we worked on those, went through page after page, every single page.
You're talking about the 2014 one?
Yes. So,
Okay, so then at the end of the year, this comes back and the board then reads it and either approves it or doesn't.
yes, or we make changes or whatever, so what happens is each individual section, like the fire department, they're responsible for making their own changes and he will go about the law part of it, but anything that they have done that they have changed, they're responsible for making those changes. So whatever goes in there is their responsibility, the same as the planning commission, the same for the highway. They've got to go over all of those things and get it to the way that the town wants it. Then, after it's all put together.
Is that what that company did in 2014?
Yep.
Yes,
What did they charge us for doing it in 2014?
10,000.
10,003.
Was it? Yeah.
10,003.
So, yes,
What's Stephanie Bailey charging? Oh, God,
Told
don't
him
tell
the
me he
same
got a
thing.
open checkbook. He charges whatever the hell he wants.
he is the one that is is going to be setting up the contract with what, he has to go through it and see what it's gonna involve.
So is he going to be contacting the new board? Okay, so he is not doing anything until he talks to the new board, am I correct?
He's gonna go through it and see what it is and how much he's gonna have to do. I took a whole case full of stuff to him. So he'll have to go through that and see what it's gonna involve. So,
And then
yes,
he'll propose a price.
yes, yes, yes. We put 10,000, because that's what we paid last time, that's what we put on the budget.
One could be better, we had a committee, go through the ordinances,
Well, that.
and then give it to him and have him look at it and tell us
Well,
what's
Gary,
legal
come
and
on,
what
we're not
isn't
gonna,
legal.
we're not getting into this, we have this set up. We contacted him, Russ, I think Dorothy, there's two people that have offered to help with this right now. If you want more, you can have them, that's up to them. Russ and Dorothy have both volunteered. So, that's up to them, so if they want, how many people you wanna get in on it, so.
Sure.
Yes,
Do we need a motion to have the board construct a letter to be sent out to those who do plow their snow across the road?
we have done that,
Okay,
we have sent letters.
okay. And is there any other follow-up
But,
after
we
that?
can certainly, actually this year, it was out practically knocking on their door saying, don't do this anymore, chasing them down as we watched them do it. So, but there have been letters sent out in the past. So I think, I don't know if there's one that's in the computer or not.
But is there any follow-up after the letter if they continue to do that?
Well, you get the state statute set.
Right, but.
And that's what they have to.
Yeah, you're asking, do we find them?
Yeah,
I don't know that we have.
Have we been having,
We can't as a township because we have no way to enforce it. So what we would have to do is call the police department.
okay, then
Yeah.
I would say that you do that.
Yeah.
Well, the only way that's ever gonna rectify itself is somebody's gonna have, we've been yapping about this for 10 years ever since I've been doing the meetings and whatnot. Somebody's gonna have to get a set of balls and turn whoever is dumping this, or shoving the snow across, and contact the sheriff's department and tell them, go to M326 Birch, well, I'm no longer there, but, and they got snow across, and if the cops come and do something,
Okay.
then you're okay, then the word of mouth will get out. Every year we talk about the same snow bullshit, I mean, who cares? It ain't gonna change unless you do something.
You're right. Okay, any other comments? Okay, set next year's meeting date. I think it's the third Tuesday of April, 2020. The third Tuesday of April, 2020 is the 21st. Ooh, it's late. Seems. Do we have a motion to set that date?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Okay,
second.
motion's been made and seconded to set the date of the next year's meeting for the 21st of April, 2020. The announcements are the Board of Review, open book is May 29th, 2019, 4 to 6. Board of Review is June 5th, 2019, 7 to 9.
You did vote on the motion.
Motion for the, oh.
Kind of like a
Set,
holiday.
yeah, we talked about it at the meeting. Is there a motion to set next year's meeting date?
We did that.
We made it, and we have it, and we have it seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, motion carried. Sorry about that. Board of Review. So we go over that, the Board of Review, actual itself, June 5th, 2019, 7 to 9. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Yes.
I'd like to thank Carolyn for the last 8 years of being chair, and that noted in the I'd make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to, adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Yes, Dorothy?
I think, well, I mean, on the same note, Dave, I think we ought to commend Deb for being our new chair. And Carolyn, you've done a good job. Deb, continue to do a good job. And the town will continue to move forward. Thank you.
Absolutely.
She has my guidance.
We're screwed.
Yeah. So, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Right, you didn't get to make the motion. All in favor, say aye, and then any nay. Okay, motion,
Before
meeting
everybody
adjourned.
leaves, I'd like to, let everybody know we are putting together a highway committee